We're getting there. I know I realize we're after lunch and after talking about price increases, which is a heated topic here. But with some of the conversations earlier today, I will second that. Ops is extremely important, and that's why I'm here to talk about it today. Though I'm actually a field leader. I lead a field team of customer success managers, associates, senior managers, and managers globally. Though in order for my team to function, the partnership with the operations teams that I work with is so critical. So we'll talk about that a bit today as well. All right. So just leave it with that to go. Okay. So my name is Michelle Hackett. I am the Global Director of Customer Success at Smartsheet for actually what we call our long tail segment of customers. So it is our highest volume segment. It's our highest segment of ARR. But it is a combination of a tech touch and human touch motion across my teams. So I'm going to try the clicker. Let's see. Will it go to the next one? No.
We could take a pause.
I'll take a pause. A few technical
We
difficulties.
can ask you, what is your favorite travel snack?
Favorite travel snack. That is a good one. You know, recently I had, which I was surprised by this, I got one of those Stroop waffles on the plane. And I was
those
like,
are good.
Oh, it's better than pretzels, right?
Yeah.
And what will you be having at happy hour?
I know. So keep going. I tend to be vodka soda lime. Pretty standard. And if you spill wearing a white shirt, that's okay too.
We're having a few technical challenges here, but we will be up and running hopefully shortly.
You'll get to know all about me before you even talk
Where are you looking forward to traveling next?
I'm actually looking forward to traveling to Costa Rica, believe it or not, because we actually recently started a team there at Smartsheet. So I cannot wait to get down there. And everyone else can't wait either. Someone's like, do you need someone to come to Costa Rica with you? My colleague Amanda has been down because she leads the team. But it's a popular destination, and I can't wait to go down. Hopefully like January and February when it's not so great here. So
With your Stroop waffle. Okay.
with my Stroop waffle.
I think you want to click. Give it a click. Or a laser.
Oh, we're moving. Excellent. So here's the agenda, what we'll talk about today. I figured I can't have a presentation without an agenda because I tell my CS teams all the time, if you're meeting with a customer, you have to have an agenda in your meeting. So we'll do a little bit of a background about myself so you'll learn where I'm coming from. We'll talk about CS operations from a definition standpoint, though keep in mind we all probably will define CS operations a bit differently. We'll talk about some of the core responsibilities that we have with our ops team at Smartsheet, but also what I've seen from working at other companies and networking with others as well. And then I'll focus on the partnership with the field, and that's really what I'm here to talk about today. So I lead a team where we're trying to scale our operations and our team and all of our impact for our customers. And the partnership that I have as a field leader with the operations teams that I work with is almost more important than the sales CS partnership at this point, and I'll talk about that. And then we'll wrap it up with some measurement. So one thing when thinking about operations and whether it is compensating your team, making sure you're aligned with that team, is making sure that everyone is aware and is working on the metrics that matter. So we'll talk about some KPIs to consider. Some of them are on the revenue side and some of them aren't. And I'll leave you with a piece of food for thought to wrap it up today too. So again, Michelle Hackett, Director of Customer Success at Smartsheet. Smartsheet's actually based in Bellevue, Washington, though we have a fairly large presence here in Boston. I'm a global field leader. I lead a team of CSAs, CSMs, senior managers and managers across North America, EMEA, APAC, and Latin America. You guys think she must work all the time. We make it work, don't worry. I've been at Smartsheet for 3 years this week, actually. So this is the pinnacle week for me at Smartsheet, and it's been an amazing adventure so far. I've been at 4 different SaaS companies. 2 of them include publicly traded companies. 1 includes a Series B, and another was a really fun turnaround where we built customer success. My background is primarily in customer success and professional services, though I have an MBA in business analytics and global management. I am a numbers person. I love numbers, I love data, and it plays really well with the team that I lead because we are trying to scale the team for the future. So what is customer success operations? Even before reading the slide, when someone asked me that, I'm like, well, sales has had ops for a long time. It's our turn. That's what it is, right? We need our own operations team. But CS operations, I like to think about it this way. It's a functional area or team, and for smaller companies, sometimes that's a team of 1. tends to be that Swiss Army knife type of person that can do many different things. And I've worked with some many great operations folks who can do that. But they really charter to support the day-to-day of the CS team. So driving efficiencies and really aligning with the core objectives of what the CS organization needs to accomplish. So one goal of the operations team should be around enabling the team, so the field folks, the people on the front lines with our customers, giving them more time so they can be in front of customers and spending less time doing operational items, repetitive tasks, internal work. That's how I look at operations. So some of the core responsibilities of an operations team can actually be really broad. And if we polled the room, I'm sure people would have different experiences and different ideas of what should fall within an operations team. Part of that depends on your needs at the time for the business. Part of that's going to depend on the size of your resources. Again, if you have a team of one, they're not going to be able to do all of these things. You have to pick and choose. But here's how I like to think about it. I think it's really core. But one of the pillars of an operations team is to be responsible for your CS platform, so the tech stack, your systems and your technology stack. Another is around enablement. Some organizations have enablement under a training team. Some have dedicated enablement people. I wish I had a dedicated person, but that would be selfish of me. But enablement can fall under operations as well. And then the data and analytics piece is key. So company like Smartsheet, where I come from, there's no shortage on data. We have over 100,000 customers and millions of users. So we have a lot of data, but we really rely on our operations team to partner with us on serving up the data that we need to the folks who need to see it. And that takes a lot of work. Customer programs. So some organizations have a programs team that falls within customer success. Some of them have a programs team that actually falls in a marketing function. And sometimes it does fall within operations as well. If it doesn't fall within operations, there's a lot of work that you have to do between that, because to have a really successful customer programs team, there's a lot of operational work that has to be done. And then the last piece is process management. It's really key to have a centralized team or centralized resources documenting and continuing to update processes, whether they are between teams, between, let's say, CS and sales, or CS and professional services, and also around renewals as well. Some ops teams actually own a large part of renewal operations if that renewal function falls within customer success. And the last piece overall is just managing SOPs. Any standard operating procedure, it's really beneficial to have a centralized resource managing this instead of your field folks. They will weigh in a lot of what they want if you put this in the hands of a field person. So the partnership. So in my role today at Smartsheet, there's kind of 3 different buckets of CS, and I like to think about it in 3 ways. There's the field teams, so folks like myself, so the customer success managers and our leaders, and anyone who's working with the customers on the front line. We have operations, which actually rolls up in a couple different operations teams, and we actually have a separate CS programs team that focuses on one-to-many programs, and really is building the engine for the tech touch and people touch motions that my team executes on. But one of the most valuable and important partnerships, and it really is a business partnership, almost like my HR business partner, my ops partnerships are so key to the success of my teams right now, because my focus with the long-tailed program that I run is to scale the organization. Because we've reached a point of growth where we have to do other things instead of continuing to put people aligned to our growth. And we've made a shift to focus and invest in operations and programs to really drive efficiencies so that the folks on the front lines, the field team, can spend more time with customers. And in a scaling organization, different from a growth organization, where growth, you got this trajectory. Scale, you might still have the same trajectory, but you have to get more creative. And one of the biggest things that can help drive the scale and efficiencies is actually consistency. And I say consistency instead of streamlining or instead of other words, because sometimes that people tense up when I say those. But as a field leader, as we continue to grow and scale at Smartsheet, one big focus that I have is driving consistency. And that's consistent delivery with our customers. It's consistent language internally so that our partners know what CS does for our customers. It's having consistent conversations with customers instead of our team just creating all of their own resources all of the time and getting and having all of this stuff out there. We're really trying to drive consistency on my team, and the operations teams that I work with are a key partner in being able to do that. So partnerships for success. So again, this partnership for me in my role today is so critical, and it hasn't always been easy. I guess I'll put it that way. So if you have an ops partner today, or if you are in an operational role working with the field, I really encourage you to really think strategically and align your strategic objectives to be the same so you can move forward together. There's two ways that I look at it. You can work in functional silos, so like an operations versus field approach, and I'll give you an example of that. I've had a couple of experiences where if I'm the darker blue person on that, I would kind of build something and say, hey, ops team, go build this for my team. And then the response that I typically would get, if we haven't aligned on that before, is, it's not on my roadmap. And I'm like, all right. And then I get the same kind of friction back of, hey, we built this thing, we need your people to start doing it tomorrow. And I'm like, no, we launched 5 things last week, we have to tone it down. So what I find that works best is you have to have this kind of continuous partnership and true alignment on the key priorities for the whole CS organization to be able to kind of row the boat together faster. Because if not, it just causes a little bit of friction. I know in one of the presentations earlier, we were talking about, I think, between sales and CS, and Emily mentioned that it can be sort of like a roommate situation. I look at my relationship with my operations stakeholders kind of like siblings. You know, we're part of the same family. We might push each other a little bit, but you're part of the same family. You have to make it work, and you will. So if you have any friction with teams you work with, either way, think about the continuum. It has to be a strategic partnership, because if not, there's just a lot of push and pull. Metrics that matter. So there's leading and lagging indicators of measurement for success when I think about operations. And a lot of it comes down to, how do you compensate an ops team? Or if you have one person, how do you compensate that person? Depending on where they fall in the organization, a couple things to consider. A lot of times you see project-based completion metrics. So an operations team or function is successful when they've completed X number of projects or completed Y number of projects earlier than they've anticipated. Another way you can think about this is you can compensate a team or kind of charter a team under a management by objectives or MBO or OKR-like structure. But going back to this continuum and the strategic partnership, the more aligned that the field and ops leaders are and what they need to achieve together, the faster everything is going to move. So what I actually recommend is thinking about aligning around some of the common metrics that field leaders use and that CS organizations use. Because at the end of the day, if an ops team is creating these efficiencies that drive consistency and help your team scale, the lagging indicators that you will eventually see will be improvements in some of the CS revenue metrics. So net retention, gross retention, expansion, churn or loss rate. Again, it's a lagging indicator because you won't see this right away. And then another thing to think about too is the work that your ops team doing chartered to make improvements with adoption metrics? So like usage, engagement, time to value, which can always be a little bit tough to measure. But if that's the case, and if the work that they're doing is aligned to some of these, consider tying that into some of their measurement or basing some of their projects around some of the same field metrics that are used today. So in thinking about CS operations and where I'm going next with my team, we think about all of these different areas, and actually we tie a lot of our metrics to revenue and adoption, whether it is a field role or an operations role, because at the end of the day, we all have the same overall charter. But one piece of food for thought that I will leave you with in terms of metrics to really align the field and operations is this. So it's really around cost to serve. So a lot of times we talk about metrics and metrics that matter. They're metrics on how the business is trending. But in an organization that's looking to scale, you can't continue to put people on it. You have to build efficiencies in other ways. And an indicator of doing that well, and again, this is an internal metric, not something that you're gonna kind of publish out there, is improving your cost to serve, which is usually a reduction. So if you can partner with the field and ops can partner together to drive efficiencies, create more consistency to scale, focus on improving cost to serve together. And thank you. I'll open up for questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I on? Hello, hello.
Okay, I'm just gonna yell for now until I get my 3 mics. If everybody could just go into Slido and throw some questions in, that would be wonderful. I have one question to start, which is, what is the most adopted or highest value CS ops tool that your field leverages or has leveraged?
An ops tool that we've leveraged.
Like something that ops has helped the field with, that you feel like is gotten a good ROI, is really helpful for the field.
Yeah, I'll say a recent one. So we've recently implemented a CS platform, and our ops team was critical in getting that off the ground. And as a field leader, with that, there's so many things that that's going to do for us in the future. But one of the biggest things that we can see now is really like tracking the value-added activities that the customer success organization is doing all in one place. Before we rolled out a system, we built a lot on our own platform at Smartsheet. We use many other platforms, but it's really bringing everything all in one. So we do have more of a 360 view of the customer. And without all sorts of ops teams, we wouldn't have been able to do that.
Okay. In what way does CS Ops manage comp, if at all?
Compensation?
Yes.
Yeah, so at Smartsheet, we have historically had, I'd say the evolution of the title of this individual or this team has changed. But when I started at the company, it was actually our enablement team that owned the operations around compensation. So not necessarily setting compensation and making the decisions around what that comp model looks like, but managing it. When it comes to making the decisions around compensation decisions, that's a field decision in my organization. So every business leader or every CS leader makes those decisions, but our operations team, which went from an enablement resource, which then rolled into a shared services team that actually we have, and they manage the compensation, tracking of our metrics, and making sure everybody gets paid on their bonuses every quarter.
Okay, thank you. How do you calculate cost to serve in your case?
Good question. I know I heard saw a few heads nodding at the end of that. What we look at is this. So at Smartsheet, we have several different I'd say pillars of customer success. And we use some metrics around, and so for my organization, and just to take a step back, when I joined Smartsheet, the organization that I lead today, we had 2 people and 2 open recs. And fast forward 3 years, we now have a global organization of over 30 people, several layers of leadership, and we've actually taken on many more customers into the model that we have today. We serve about 37,000 of Smartsheet's customers in a scaled model. With that, sorry, could you repeat the question again? I just completely blanked.
How do you calculate cost to serve?
Cost to serve.
What is your favorite travel snack?
So, I know, I remember the stroopwafel. Always driven by food. You can do some quick, I call it like napkin math around this, where take all of the customers in your segment, or for you it might be all of the customers at your company. Take all of your people. How many people does it take to serve X number of customers? That's just the simple high level. Take their salary, take the overhead, do the math there. That's simple. You can get more granular with exact numbers there, but think about how many customers are you serving, how many people do you have, which can include ops, and back out the math that way.
Okay, thank you. What are some of your favorite CS software tools that you've used to track customer metrics?
That is a great question. We are a Gainsight shop. I do like Gainsight. And in terms of metrics, though, I have to say, maybe shameless plug, but I actually like using Smartsheet for it. And if you want to learn more about that, let's talk. But actually, we use Gainsight. It's a recent implementation for us. But historically at Smartsheet, we've used our own platform. And we actually pull in and use a lot of our connectors to pull information from different data sources like Tableau, our databases, to visualize it on a Smartsheet dashboard. So I actually start my morning every morning with a Smartsheet dashboard that's pulling in metrics from various different systems that I can see how my team is pacing globally.
Great. Recommendations for transitioning from CSM to more of an ops role. That could be field to ops, not entirely sure, but.
That is a good question. And I've seen a lot of folks who've done this. I think if you're looking to go from field to ops, try to take on a project and start with the project, because your work is going to change to be more project-based. Take it on to see if you like it, right? Test it out. And it can also give you the visibility to move towards that organization. I'd say going the other way around, I would connect with field leaders. If you're in an operations role and want to move to the field, just start talking to people. Let them know you're interested. Learn about what they do. Learn about what their day-to-day is. Shadow. Those would be my pieces of advice.
What are the main skills required to excel in ops? Like, what do you look for in a partner?
What do I look for in a partner? That's a big question.
What makes somebody good in ops versus maybe not?
My biased opinion is going to be someone who can learn your business. I think one of the biggest things and challenges that I see, and the slides aren't up here, is if you're working together, field and ops, and you don't understand what each other are doing, it's really hard to work together. And as a field leader, what I look for in an ops partner is someone or a team that can understand the needs of my business. One of my ops partners recently came to me. They went to a conference and came back and said, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, "What are you sorry for?" And they go, "You are my customer." And I said, "I wasn't thinking of that either." And she's like, "I need to be prescriptive with you. I need to be your CSM so that we're aligned to make these resources or drive efficiencies or create that consistency for the field." So they're like, "I need to think about things differently." And I was like, that's an interesting perspective. So that's something to consider too.
Just by a show of brave hands, is anybody in the ops side of the CS world? Any brave hands? I see one in the back. The fact that there are so many CS field-ish people versus ops people in the room sounds like there's a good opportunity for ops people.
It does. A lot of fieldish people here today, right?
A lot of fieldish people here. Let's see, what else do we have here? Maybe I'll just jump to my favorite question, and we can go backwards. What do you? What would you like everybody to remember about your talk and coming here today? And what's the key takeaway?
I would say the key takeaway is think about partnership. I think a lot of times when it comes to ops and field, it's around you do this for me, I do this for you, but it really has to be a partnership. And like I said before, I'm curious to connect with the one ops person we have here today. If you're not on the same page, it's just this like push and pull all the time. So you really have to be strategically aligned. So if you do have an ops partner, or if you have ops partners, or if you don't have ops but you have one Swiss Army knife person doing some of this work for you, really make sure you partner with them well, because it has to be a strong partnership. If not, it creates a lot of friction and you just don't move as quickly as you can.
Okay, well, I think we're done here. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.